学与艺术学院的院士，亚洲体育历史与文化期刊的编委，布达佩斯考文有斯大学经济学院世界经济系名誉教授，现任马克思普朗克社会法和社会政策研究所副动员，曾为德国慕尼黑马普社会法和社会政策研究所高级访问学者。他的研究领域呢，包括社会学、经济学、政治学、社会政策和哲学。那么我们有请Peter Herman 教授给我们带来这个报告《体育世俗化的新阶段》。Please.
Good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect.
It's perfect. So this is, of course, only the meaningless introduction. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And I hope actually to be a little bit provocative and first have to ask you just listen to what you say. Do not expect anything particular in terms of sports, in terms of whatever the title may suggest. And then I have some presumptions where I would ask as well just to accept them without discussing them. They can be discussed. I know I would not say they are 100% true, but as a working tool, they may be useful. First, the distinction between micro, meso, and macro level. This is what society is about. These are not, and society is not an aggregate of these three levels, but it is something distinct. This plays a role. Then we are dealing with immediate interaction between people, but as well with different levels, different layers of mediation. So we have a club which works as a mediator, and then we have, of course, very abstract legal rules and so on and so forth, up to a degree, and I think this is very important for what I'm going to say or deal with, up to a level of complete alienation, that we do not know anymore what is actually happening with what we are doing. As well important is the distinction between times. We have past, we have different times of presence, and we have, of course, the future. If we have it, and what this future is about is very much a question of this presentation. So now, this is the first thing as well, that societies are inclusively, increasingly inclusive. So we have a very small group, idea, the ancient city-state, and then we have a larger society where what was not imaginable, we have slaves now being citizens. This is important. So in a way, we have this inclusion, increasing inclusion. At the same time, we have within this framework differentiation, fine-tuning of course, taking these exclusive moments into account, and to say they are not external exclusions, meaning exclusions, but internal mechanisms of inclusion or exclusion. The concept of progress, quoting Walter Benjamin, is to be founded in the idea of catastrophe. The catastrophe is that it goes on like this. We are always used to it. It is not what is imminent in each case, but what is given in each case. Strindberg's thought, hell is not something that is in store for us, but this life here. Salvation adheres to the small leap in the continuous catastrophe. So we are dealing with getting used to something, and then we make a huge jump. As I said, don't expect anything, be open, and now look at this. We have different times across the world. It's a little bit a joke, a little bit of provocation. This is what we are dealing with, and this is the catastrophe we are facing. We are facing during this conference because we have to deal with different times, people not being able to attend at that time because they are sleeping. As simple as that. Now, globalization. Look at this. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Having one global time, all at the same time, meeting at 8 o'clock. This is the catastrophe second level, because now we are dealing with a complete alienation. Whenever it is dark, it doesn't matter, we have one time. Whenever it is bright, still we have one time, we cannot sleep anymore. Still, there is something else. Just a minute. So let me continue from there. We have this simple thing of plays, of games, where we want to be together, where we want to do things, whatever it is, playing, gaming, competing. Now, yesterday somebody had been talking about plurality. Now, I'm wondering if we should not be talking about multi-realities. We have different realities, and this is the question here: what is real, and where does this reality stop, and where do we go beyond something that is actually not real anymore in terms of our daily life, our understanding? This is the external world, and this is changing, and at the same time, this is going back to Hegel, the human being is changing as well. We change with our perceptions. The challenge of history, he writes, well, it is what goes back one what he writes, it is that human nature in the romantic view was not just naturally given, but historically constructed. The idea that was central to Hegel's moral philosophy. Hegel's relationship with Romanticism was complex. And this was this complexity of we are getting used to it. We are living in a society, in a natural environment that we shaped and to that we got used. Now, this is a process where we are dealing with what I call conditions of the reified and natural world. We are living in our environment. It's not just nature. Nature is always changing and had been changed, and it had been changed with a certain purpose. Then it goes back and we have a higher purpose. And it's a spiral working from there. So what can we do with this? I think what is important and what we can do is that we take this as a point of departure and say the reality we are living in is one that is constructed and that we perceive at that given time, at any given time, as a kind of natural. And this is the relationship I want to draw attention on. Again, going back to Hegel, the master controls the slave. This is our hierarchical societies. These are the Olympic Games. These are the heroes, all the heroes of the times. But the slave, in making himself the physical form of the master's will, in turn exercises control over the master. It is his work that makes the master's life possible. This is the point, what is important, that the slave or that person who is subordinated is actually getting a new, gaining a new role. And this is important in terms of the different ways we are dealing with society. Now to the core point. We have all these heroes, but we reached at the moment, I think, again, a stage where there is increasingly this feeling of alienation, of unhappiness. How can we deal with this? What are we doing with this? Where we do not know. People are setting rules. There are Olympic Games. There are these little catastrophes of doping scandals and you name it. And this is the point where actually from the side of the spectators comes this demand of, we want to know, who are you? What is behind your heroism? What is you putting you up on this podest? And the other way around as well, that activists are actually getting, I think, increasingly alienated as well by the situation, where they say, this cannot be going on this way. We want to be active, sportive athletes. And we do not want to be a play ball of business, a play ball of politicians, a play ball of this and that. We want to be athletes. And we are people like you and me. People are, and these former heroes say and open themselves and say, for instance, this was over the last year something, homosexuals coming out. They are saying, not only I have a sexuality, which you can assume, but I never talked about it, but actually I'm homosexual, I'm lesbian, or I am drug addict, I have problems, I have this anxiety whenever I start. Meaning I am not this hero untouchable, but accept that I'm a human being, that I'm fighting here, not just for the medal, and not just in terms of whatever I can gain as reputation, but I'm fighting as well for my place as a person like you. You are working in an enterprise, assembling something, you are working in a university, you are working as a carer, I do my work as athletes. And this is a matter of entertainment, and this is something where we want to interact, and we should interact. So in this way, sports goes back, I think, from this very high level, as well a little bit, I asked yesterday a question, where the importance of the local level comes back into play, where people are encouraged actually to say, yes, this is fun. Even if I'm competing because it's fun, not because I have to gain something, I have to have a high reputation out of this. So in this way, I don't claim that I get a high reputation out of this presentation, but perhaps it was a little bit thought-provoking and opening for a discussion. Thank you.
好的，谢谢赫曼教授。赫曼教授给我们做了一个非常精彩的报告哈，就涉及到很多体育当中的大家的一些新的认知和思考。
New perception and thoughts. Do you have any questions? And then you can turn on the microphone, or you can leave messages on the chat box. I want to ask you a question. So I want to ask you, the secularization of sports has something to do with every one of us. Actually, it is seclusive. It has a feature of secularity. Is it a kind of professionalism that the sports departs from the secularization? So that's why you have this kind of thought.
Well, thanks for the question. It's very important. There's something that where I was cutting down actually. It is important, I think, that it is a secular process. We have it in sports. And sports, in a way, is an ideal example for this because we are immediately acting with other people, with nature, within the built-up environment, and competing with our own nature, with our bodies, at least in most of the cases. But at the same time, it is a secular process that I think, if you look into politics, you find very much the same. And this is unfortunately there, and in this way, it's a danger as well. We have the problem of populism, where actually these people say, like Mr. Trump, I'm not one of these politicians who is working in an abstract way. I'm one of you. And he was very clear and very provocative in his language, and he did huge damage. So we should be aware of this part of as well, that it is this double-edged sword, but it is part of society's development. And this is why I quoted Benjamin. It is this general process. The catastrophe is wherever we go. Racism. And I showed this clock, the clocks, the world time, if you want. We are facing this in a way. It's absurd to think we have one time across the world. But at the same time, if you look at it, we have so many artificial factors. Traveling distance is no problem anymore. Years ago, it was a huge problem. Light, daylight, night light can work 24 hours, no problem. So in this way, it's part of another development, a wider development.
Yeah,
I understand you. It should be the diversified space that we should have diversified world through the career of sports that we can realize.